What is up, everybody? It is April 6th, 2026, and we're going to look at everything that Trump has said. Yes, and we have struck Karaj, Iran, right now. Literally right before the stream happened, right after Trump's speech at the White House, and we're going to be covering it all. We're going to be covering how the war is unfolding and how this is not good for the United States. So be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, support the show, and without further ado, let's get right into the geopolitical analysis. So here we go. So now we're looking at the newest news, basically, in the current situations. Okay, so let's look at everything and what we're looking at. So when we look at some of these major updates here, we got a lot of them today, right? Trump says he's not at all concerned about the war crimes as he threatened destruction of Iran's nuclear program and all of these different things going on. Again, for politics, our heroic ICE.gov agents are simply enforcing the laws that have been enacted by Congress, while Democrats call to defund ICE. So all of these things are happening. And again, other big markets, U.S. Secretary of War Hegseth, tomorrow's strikes on Iran will be the more than today. All of these big statements were made. And so when we're looking at the entire geopolitical map here, we see that the movements are happening, but there's a lot of activity in Israel. Israel's getting hit hard. Iran is getting hit hard by the United States. Israel should be thanking us. And again, at the end of the day, we're looking at basically the Truth Social post that Trump made the other week or the other day, basically stating that Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the effing Strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah. So this is what Trump said at 10:07 a.m. Just yesterday. And that got 1.4 million views. Well, without further ado, look at what happened next, okay? So Trump gave his statements today.
Simple. I saw somebody said, oh, he doesn't have a plan. I have the best plan of all, but I'm not going to tell you what my plan is. You know, they want me to say, here's my plan. We're going to attack at 9:47 in the morning, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to... And if you don't do that, they say, I have a plan. These people know what the plan is. Everybody here knows what the plan is.
Yeah.
But,
and so as we can see,
it's fair to say, you know, because I don't mind being insulted. I've been insulted for many years by the fake news, but you can't. It's so bad for people that are so you just saw two great and John Ratcliffe, three unbelievable people. They have a plan. Every single thing has been thought out by all of us. But I can't reveal the plan to the media. So, you know, but we're...
So, you know, just trust the plan, right? Trust the plan. Meanwhile, as we are all trusting the plan, we, of course, have other statements from Trump like this one. President Trump says he wants to seize Iran's oil. It's there for the taking. There's not a thing they can do about it. Hopefully you guys are investing in oil. Hopefully you guys are investing on hyperliquid. And that's kind of what a lot of us have been doing. I've been doing it. And really, you're investing in the oil markets. That's the idea. You need to invest in the oil markets, the future growth of the economy. Listen, there's no other ways to make money, right? Trump is basically setting the world up for complete failure. Not really his fault. I mean, ultimately, he's controlled by the wrong people. But yeah, it is his fault because he's the president, right? So this was his other statement he made.
If I had my choice, what would I like to do? Take the oil.
Yeah, he said he wants to take the oil.
It's there for the taking. There's not a thing they can do about it.
Not a thing they can do about it, he says. Yeah, we're getting to that. New footage shows the U.S. strike unleashing multiple bunker buster bombs on the western section of the B-1 bridge in Karaj, Iran. So, yep, this is the big footage that's been coming out. This happened today, so this is what Trump was talking about. Of course, Trump had a plan. This was the plan. This was ultimately the plan the entire time, to bomb Iran when he said he was going to bomb them tomorrow, right? Typical Trump. But we didn't get a taco. We did not get a taco. We did not get a Trump always chickens out situation. We got a real strike, but at the end of the day, this is not good for America because it keeps us in there. And remember, we had the Strait of Hormuz already. So how is this really helping us? We're actually just creating more turmoil, and I don't see Israel really fighting any of this war. They seem to be getting annihilated by Iran, while the United States is over here fighting Israel's war for them. Look at that. So the bridge day apparently is Monday. It was never Tuesday, as Trump's Truth Social statement said. It's going to be Monday. It's going to be today. How are you enjoying Bridge Day? And that's weird. The sirens are going off for me where I'm at right now. Yep. So that's where we're at with that. And then again, in retaliation, we also had the first video emerging showing what appears to be a mass launch of Hadid 110 one-way attack drones by the Iranian Army ground force targeting U.S. Army positions in Kuwait. This comes as claimed retaliation for recent U.S. strikes on Iran's industrial and petrochemical infrastructure using PRSM missiles, which reportedly caused civilian casualties in Lamard. The Hadid 110 is a jet-powered, high-speed loitering munition designed for strike missions against sensitive targets with significantly reduced interception time compared to lower drones. So let's take a look at this. Woo! So we got the missiles flying. And so it looks like Iran's already fighting back. Yeah. Attack drones by the Iranian Army ground force targeting U.S. Army positions in Kuwait. That's insane. So, the war goes on. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is doing whatever Netanyahu needs him to do. Meanwhile, as the United States continues this war, we are all paying for it as American taxpayers. You are paying for it as an American taxpayer. I hope you're enjoying it. They say it's to fight off the nuclear enrichment of Iran. They say it's to fight off all of the evil Iranians and all of this, basically the narrative we've heard in Iraq before, which is the WMD theory, nuclear weapons. Well, we heard that before, and we've actually been hearing that from Netanyahu on Iran specifically, how Iran's going to have nuclear weapons for quite a long time now, many, many years, just about since 47, 67? I can't remember. I think it was 1967. Netanyahu was out there in Congress talking about how we need a nuclear missile, we need a nuclear missile, we need a nuclear missile. And then how it's not a good thing that Iran is able to have nuclear missile. Isn't it amazing how that works? So when you look at all of these different situations happening, it doesn't look good for the United States because really, look at this. The Jubail engulfed in firestorm. Saudi night sky burns orange after Iranian attacks. So nobody's winning. We're still seeing U.S. troops and then our allies, our coalition forces, which is, again, Saudi Arabia and Qatar, they are taking missile strikes from Iran. So even after the bombs, even after all of it, let's see. You know, Iranian missiles struck Al Jubail, Saudi Arabia, large fire burning. Al Jubail is the largest industrial city in the Middle East, home to massive petrochemical and desalination complexes. Crazy. Yep, the war is going on, and there's no way we're getting out of it unless we, take care of it ourselves, unless we get our politicians out of this war, unless we persuade them of some nature, of some way. But who knows? It doesn't look like Donald Trump is in the mood for talks. Doesn't look like anytime soon we're going to be getting out of this war. Not by any measures, I would say. Meanwhile, Artemis 2 crew nears the closest approach to the moon. Earth can be seen settling over the moon's horizon in the distance. So again, we've had a lot of conspiracy theories on this. Again, not a lot of people believe the moon landing was real, right? So we're all kind of skeptical on this. And then we've also seen some strange, I've seen some strange CGI videos that have popped up surrounding this entire thing. And then we remember what happened with the entire Artemis project with Katy Perry and Jeff Bezos and how it was just like all fake. So who knows if this is even real.
It's a privilege to witness you carrying the fire past our farthest reach.
But we're still going to watch it. We're still going to cover history because they're going to talk about it as if it's real history, right? Waiting for it to load. So yeah, this is the big mission. This is what they say. It's just amazing. It's like we're supposed to believe this. It's hard for me to believe it.
And thank you to all of you for allowing us the immense privilege.
Again, we're looking at the Artemis 2 project.
It's quite amazing. And as we go on this journey, thinking about the NASA mission to
Heck yeah.
benefit of humanity and to inspire the world through discovery. And as you've gone along on this journey with us, hopefully we're doing just those things. And as we get close to the nearest point to the moon and farthest point from Earth, as we continue to unlock the mysteries of the cosmos, I would like to remind you of one of the most important mysteries there on Earth, and that's love. Christ said in response to what was the greatest command that it was to love God with all that you are. And
Well, I like that.
he also, being a great teacher, said the second is equal to it, and that is to love your neighbor as yourself.
It's a good message.
So
It's a good message for the United States.
out of radio communication, we're still to feel your love from Earth, and to all of you down there on Earth and around Earth, we love you from the moon.
Yeah, the aliens. But Elon Musk says the aliens don't exist. What's up with that?
Copies. We'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, we'll see you on the other side of the entire interviews and all of that stuff. Back into the news, Donald Trump accidentally reveals the terrifying truth behind his feud with NATO. He admits he abandoned European allies and fractured the alliances simply because they refused to sell him Greenland. He is risking global security over a petty real estate dispute. So this is what a lot of people are saying on X. What do you guys think? Honestly, I want to take Greenland. We should have focused on Greenland, but instead we're in Iran. That's how I feel. We had the Strait of Hormuz secured, but instead we're in Iran.
What kind of a missile's coming at us? Patriot. Boom.
We got to get Trump out of office now.
Because they
He's
know
just
Patriot
not
never
doing his
misses.
job.
So they had beautiful Patriots. There were planes heading in their direction. Unfortunately, they decided to shoot those planes. They were our planes. So, NATO is a paper tiger. Now, he's coming to see me on Wednesday, as you know. He's a wonderful guy. Secretary General is great. And Mark Rutte. He's a great person, but he's got... And it all began with, if you want to know the truth, Greenland. We want Greenland. They don't want to give it to us. And I said, bye-bye. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
So all over a real estate deal, yeah, it's actually, of course, more than that. But, when it comes to Trump, you never know. President Trump says the entire country of Iran could be taken out in one night. So this is a statement from the United States president.
The entire country could be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night.
Yeah, so apparently it's going to be a big hit. And, again, this is all coming back to Trump's tweet. That's what we're really making this entire episode about. Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the effing strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah, President Donald Trump, unhinged president. At this point, we can't have a president like this. We need to have a president who is able to govern and able to understand when we are in a war that is not going to be advantageous for the United States or America first. Donald Trump accidentally reveals, okay, we read that, we checked that out, we went through that, okay. And then now I wanted to look through this clip. Trump calls to jail a journalist for reporting about troops put at risk because of the Iran war. There's actually another tweet here. Yeah, this is the one. The first report on the missing second pilot appeared to have been Amit Siegel and Ariel Kana. So both are Israeli reporters who are extremely close to Netanyahu. So that's very interesting. So this is what Trump had to say about this. The leaker who gave this information, and it just so happens that they were Israeli. What's up with that?
As you probably know, we didn't talk about the first one for
occurrence that we're seeing on all these live streams.
Leaked something, which we'll hopefully find that leaker. We're looking very hard to find that leaker, and talked about there's somebody missing. They basically said that we have one and there's somebody missing. Well, they didn't know there was somebody missing until this leaker gave the information. So whoever it was, we think we'll be able to find it out because we're going to go to the media company that released it, and we're going to say, national security, give it up or go to jail.
Interesting.
And we know who, and you know who we're talking about. Some things you can't do, because when they did that, all of a sudden, the entire country of Iran knew that there was a pilot that was somewhere on their land that was fighting for his life, And it also made it much more difficult.
Leaked by
for
Israelis, allegedly.
pilots and for the people going in to search for him. All of a sudden, they know that there's somebody out there. They see all these planes coming in.
What are we doing here, you
became
know?
a much more difficult operation because a leaker leaked that we have one, we've rescued one, but there's another one out there that we're trying to get. So actually, the country, Iran, put out a major notice, you all saw it, offering a very big award for anybody that captures the pilot.
Thank
so
you.
in addition
And
to a hostile...
G thanks to the Israelis who gave that information up, who are allegedly the leakers. Allegedly.
very talented, very good, very evil military. We had millions of people trying to get an award. So when you add that to it, but we have to find that leaker because that's a sick person. Probably didn't realize the extent of how bad it was.
They probably did. They probably did.
But we're going to find out. It's national security, and the person that did the story will go to jail if he doesn't say. And that doesn't last long. And I think everybody would understand it. They put this
We'll see
mission
about
at
that.
great risk. They put that man at great risk.
If they are Israeli, it seems like the Israelis get away with a hell of a lot.
They put the hundreds of people that went in looking for him because everyone now knows that we're going in.
And there you have it. So, what do you guys think? The first to report on the missing second pilot appear to have been Amit Siegel and Ariel Kahana. Both are Israeli reporters who are extremely close to Netanyahu. Very interesting stuff. And as we look through the comments to verify, Netanyahu intentionally had the op blown and put our troops in more danger, hoping they would be killed in an effort to help escalate the war. The truth is right there for anyone to see. You just have to take the time to look. Michael Lester. So that was a good post by Chick's Beach Dad, but very true. Very true. And you look at all these comments, yeah, people are in quite in agreement with this. Trump, after finding out, just forget what I said. Interesting. Sounds like the leaker may be Netanyahu. If so, Trump's promised to lock him up in jail. So, like, if Trump wasn't willing to lock up Bill Gates, or if Trump was going to pull out all of the ICE agents from Minneapolis, do you really think Trump is actually going to stand up against Israel and hold these people accountable? You know, think about the Israeli that got in trouble for Vegas for trying to lure underage girls up to his hotel room. Well, he was tried and convicted, and guess what? He got sent right back to Israel. Nothing happened, and he didn't get convicted. He was tried, but then he was not convicted, and he was allowed to go and flee to Israel. Dual citizenship. How does that make you feel? You know, it's like, you know, if you did something heinous like that and something wrong and something clearly against the law, you would be held accountable. But since they're Israelis, they can do whatever they want. Why is that? Not okay. So this is from Brian Krasenstein. He's a strong Netanyahu supporter. He's a strong Israel supporter, but he does pretty decent journalism. Trump appears to think that Israel votes in elections. He asked how Israel could vote for a Democrat. I mean, like, listen, you know, at the end of the day, Trump is a Democrat. Trump is a Democrat now. That's like the whole thing everybody needs to realize. Like, Trump, we did not change. MAGA or America First did not truly change. It was really the Trump administration. The only thing Trump was ever accurate with was ending the Iran nuclear deal. He had said he was going to do that. He also said there was going to be no more wars and all of these things, though, right? And we didn't get any of that.
Obama, Iran nuclear deal. They would have had don't forget, that was a path to
Loading.
weapon. Remember this. He chose Iran over Israel. Pure and simple.
So who cares? That's what I say. Who cares if you chose Iran over Israel? Why do we care about Israel? Why is Israel such a concern for you, Trump? How about America? America, you're wearing it. You are wearing an American flag pin on your suit jacket. America first, not Israel first, Trump.
How Israel can vote for a Democrat is if you're Barack Hussein Obama.
Like, who cares? That's what I have to say. Like, as an American, sorry, I don't care about Israel. Like, I care about Israel to an extent that they are, you know, overtaking our country and our politicians and our entire process and everything. Deal. Yeah, I mean, that's happening. I care that, Israel is not being held accountable for their war crimes right now. I absolutely care about the fact that the American taxpayer is sending Israel billions of dollars when we could be putting that money towards American roads, American infrastructure, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, string theory, quantum supremacy, all of these things we could be focusing on, but instead we're focusing on Israel. Why? I say it's a scam. I say we shouldn't send them a single penny, not a single shekel.
Here's the problem.
That's how I
the
feel.
Strait was
Right
open
here.
before the war began.
Right there.
We are now seeking to solve a problem that we created. This is insanity.
100%.
$2 billion is a lot of money.
Yep.
That's the minimum amount of money that is being spent every single day on this war. There are over a dozen families who are burying their loved ones in the United States, and there may be dozens more if this war continues.
Oh, there's going to be a lot more.
Prices are skyrocketing.
And it only gets worse. It only gets worse from there. There's no way out of this unless we actually say no, unless the American people say no, right? So when you look at the comment section, people are all, in agreements. Nobody's down for this war. Look at these comments. I don't agree with you, but this is right here. Yeah, I don't agree with everything he says, but he's doing the right thing by opposing the war, and that is what is important. Because listen, I'm not against the idea of taking Greenland or all of these other nations when they're not really nations technically. We really provide for them. We are the reason they exist. We give their, and if it was for the United States, to the extent that we would be involved, we would basically lift up that economy like it's never been lifted up before. We would take a lot of these countries into a completely different place. Whether you want to argue about regime changes and how much the CIA has control over that, obviously, when it comes to this situation in Iran, they have full control over it. They gave full credit to it in this entire speech by Trump. Ratcliffe had said it. John Ratcliffe, head of the DIA and the Defense Intelligence Agency, and he even admitted that CIA took the credit for this entire op. So what does that tell you? This is counterterrorism, and this is the way they see it. This is the way Washington sees it. And with that being said, with this being a counterterrorism op, in their eyes, in the eyes of the subjective mind of the CIA is going to keep going hard on Iran because they see Israel as our greatest ally. So we have this breakaway civilization of the CIA mixed with the Mossad. And you have to understand that the reason this duo is dangerous, not the CIA itself. The CIA itself, working as a counterterrorism arm for the United States, that's not a bad thing. Joe Kent is CIA. Everybody loves Joe Kent. Well, he's CIA. But what makes the CIA bad is when we are entangled with foreign nations like the State of Israel. And, of course, their intelligence agencies, which is Mossad. And then when you look deeper into that, you have Senator Mike Huckabee, who is, he's an ambassador he represents the United States of America in Israel right now. And when you have all of these people, these kind of people, and specifically Mike Huckabee meeting with Jonathan Pollard, who is an Israeli spy, and he had taken all of our nuclear secrets and given them to Israel. And so now they have a nuclear program. So you have all these traitors in the government of the United States. That's really what this comes down to. And you have all this illegal immigration. All of this comes back to one nation who is really not working in the interest of the United States, which is Israel. At this current time, at a national security level, and in the conversations of counterterrorism 101, the state of Israel is the greatest threat to the United States because they are destroying America from within, and not just by blackmailing our politicians, but they're even finding the most exploitable and blackmailable people. And maybe Trump was one of those, right? Maybe Trump was always trying to fight against it, and he just lost the control of it. Because we look at the people around Trump, and we see that this is a pretty dangerous situation where, Netanyahu had presented and gifted Donald Trump a golden pager just after this entire pager operation, where they took out Hamas and Hezbollah in the early stages of this entire war, right? So let's take a look at this video. Host Donald Trump is now asking taxpayers to be on the hook for renovations to the executive residence to the tune of $377 million. Let's look at this. How do you feel about this?
Donald Trump is now asking taxpayers to be on the hook for renovations to the executive residence to the tune of $377 million.
What?
That is according to the new White House budget request for next year. It marks a more than 800% increase from last year.
And then you look at the statements by Donald Trump when he says, we can't care about daycare. We can't focus on daycare. That's for the states. We can't focus on not sending in H-1Bs. We got to have H-1Bs. Bring them all in. We can't be talking about this mass deportation stuff. We can't do it. Oh, the border's more secure than ever. Don't worry about it. Nothing to fear. And it's like, no. You know, $377 million on executive residence renovations, plus $170 million more. That has to be a joke. Like, that came from Politico. Who knows if that's even real? But if that is real, that's absolute insanity. As far as the crypto market goes, this all matters because, you know, what we're going to be seeing with this entire oil market, there's only going to be two markets that are going to be really going up during this war. Maybe gold too, maybe. But ultimately, as long as we're in this Iran war, it's going to be oil, and then it will probably be crypto. And when it comes to crypto, a lot of that is going to be basically funded through the Clarity Act, which is what we're looking at now. Okay, so the Clarity Act is going to establish the regulatory frameworks to stablecoins and stablecoin yield and how the banks and how the United States government, the Federal Reserve, how it all is interoperable. And so that's what is being decided this week, and this has happened today. So let's take a look.
A bill to be entitled An Act Relating to Payment Stablecoin.
Senator Burton, you are recognized to explain that bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 314 creates a comprehensive regulatory framework for payment stablecoin issuers in Florida. It aims to integrate state oversight with federal standards, specifically the Federal Genius Act, to ensure consumer protection and financial stability. This bill permits OFR to apply for the state to be the regulator of stablecoin issuers payment systems here in Florida. It's important that we do this.
Stablecoin payment systems issuers were the key words you should have heard there. What does that mean? That means anything that's a stablecoin, which means RLUSD, which means the USDC. All of these are different forms of stablecoins. Okay, the World Liberty Financial, that is going to go up. It's going to be highly used. Billions of dollars of inflows are going to go into these assets. And so digital assets are going to be the future, and that's what's coming. And then, of course, Bitcoin is going to benefit as well. I don't really know how, but because, again, there's not really a lot of use behind Bitcoin. Bitcoin's only a store of value, and it's really only useful if we are using Bitcoin exactly for what it's supposed to be used for, which is basically for seized or forfeiture assets, and we're going to be transferring that into Bitcoin. So we take money from El Mencho, for example, or we take money from Maduro, for example, or we seize the gold back, whatever it might be, from illegal operations or whatever. Illegal operations, what the CIA calls illegal. We take that money, we put it into Bitcoin. So any kind of seized assets or forfeitured assets will be put into Bitcoin. So that's kind of what Bitcoin's actually going to bring any kind of relevancy for. If it wasn't for that, really Bitcoin would have no use case. That's why a lot of people are shorting Bitcoin all the time. They don't really see a use case for it. They see it as more of a pump and dump. And that's what they see as Bitcoin today. Now, that doesn't mean there's not ETFs and stable coins and all these things that are happening with Bitcoin, all these developments and smart contracts, but those things are happening more on the RLUSD, more on XRP, more with Ada Cardano, especially with smart contracts. But at the head of the king of this entire operation is going to end up being Ripple, the company Ripple and XRP, in my opinion. So that's kind of what things are looking like when we're looking at all of that. And the reason it matters is because there's only going to be two markets for you to invest in. It's going to be gold, it's going to be really crypto, or it's going to be oil, at least in the short term. Only 1% chance that Bitcoin will hit $100,000 in April. Bettors on Polymarket are giving only a 1 in 100 chance that the price of Bitcoin will rise above $100,000 this month, a price last seen in November 2025. On the other hand, users price a 6% chance that Bitcoin will fall below $50,000 this month, a price not seen since early 2024. So on the flip side, again, when we look at all of that, yeah, people are not so feeling too confident about all of the different crypto markets, okay? So when we're looking at the crypto markets right now, and when we're looking at the relevancy of all of this, we're seeing how actually a lot of these markets do matter, because Bitcoin it was at $69,000 this morning. Right now it's at 68,000. The market's pretty much stagnant still, right? XRP is at $1.31. All the biggest movers, the number one key players, everything that the SEC finds to be valuable, these top coins essentially. Yeah, we're looking at 36 Fear Greed Index, so we're better than last week, but we're still not really where we want to be with it. So at the end of the day, though, I still think there's a lot of positive things that are going to be happening with crypto. The Clarity Act, that appears to be rather evident. That appears to be very, very imminent. Crypto news, China's tax and financial regulators urge banks to adopt blockchain for lending services. So China is competing for the entire Bitcoin race, right? They're competing with the United States. Russia already made statements that they're basically going to, with their oil reserves, it's going to be transitioned into yuan, Chinese yuan. So that's not good. China's State Administration of Taxation and National Financial Regulatory Administration issued a joint directive urging banks and local authorities to use blockchain and privacy computing to upgrade bank tax interaction data sharing and expand financing for small businesses. The policy aims to reduce information asymmetry between tax authorities, banks, and enterprises while improving credit models and approval efficiency. It aligns with the National Development of Reform Commission roadmap from January 2025, targeting nationwide blockchain data infrastructure by 2029. The directive highlights China's paradoxical stance, banning crypto transactions and mining since 2021, while aggressively building state-controlled blockchain infrastructure. China remains the world's largest Bitcoin mining country at 11.7% of global hash rate despite the ban. So, is there a connection to why Bitcoin might just be crashing, right? If China is looking to make moves with Bitcoin, well, how do we economically control China? Well, that would mean that we need to control this asset of Bitcoin, which means we need to manipulate the markets. And as the United States having that control over the dollar, that allows us that ability to do that. And so, with that being said, I think that's a real possibility. Okay, so what do you really think? What do you guys think about all of it? Iranian state TV is now calling on Iranian children to surge the power plants so they can be human shields against President Trump. Students, youth, and almost everyone is invited to shield key infrastructure tomorrow. Disgusting animals. So this is the way it's framed, but really this is more of an act of sovereignty. It's probably a political protest, right? This is people saying if we rally around this critical area of infrastructure as a people, then maybe, the United States won't bomb us for martyrdom. And it's a political strategy. Again, not a good one. They're using human shields. You could say that, but you could also say it's people coming together and they're saying we're not going to just get bombed. We're going to stand together. And if you want to do it, go ahead. We're going to stand together. And the political message is that Iran is unified. And again, it would create martyrs out of them if you were to, bomb some kind of facility with a bunch of innocent people. And so who knows what's going to happen with that. That's why I think a lot of this is going to be unpredictable. Tomorrow around the country's power plants, young humans chain circles will be formed. Al-Azira Rami, the Secretary of the Supreme Youth Council, after suggestions from people, has invited creative, athletic, and cultural faces to join this human chain near power plants at 2 p.m. Interesting. I invite all the youth, athletes, artists, students, faculties tomorrow, Tuesday at 2 p.m. near power plants, which are investments regarding of political beliefs. Gather around, these are our wealth and belongings. So again, this is the Iranian people. Apparently they are creating a human shield. Wow. At the end of the day, that's war. That's what's going to happen when you're in a regime change, when the CIA has, funded a regime change, and that's just what we do. And Amazon agrees to pay $20.5 million to settle allegations that its data centers in Morrow County, Oregon, contributed to contaminating groundwater with nitrate pollution in the agricultural community. So here's what happens. Amazon urges huge volumes of water to cool its data centers. Because the data centers use water that has nitrates in it from the area, water evaporates during the cooling process. What's left is highly concentrated nitrate water. The highly concentrated nitrate water then goes back out over the farmland, sleeping back into the groundwater. So let's take a look at this.
Overall, they're fairly low.
Data centers. Data centers. Why? How does it benefit us? How does it benefit you?
Dollars to settle allegations that its data centers have contributed to groundwater pollution in Morrow County. Folks out in Eastern Oregon have been dealing for years with nitrate pollution in the ground.
Loading.
That has polluted wells and drinking water in the area. This doesn't come from the data centers. The pollution doesn't. It's nitrates from fertilizer and other farm activities in the area. The allegation, though, is that Amazon, which uses huge volumes of water to cool its data centers out there, has been contributing to the problem because the data centers use water that has nitrates in it from the area. That water evaporates, most of it, during the cooling process. What's left is allegedly concentrated with nitrates, and it goes back out over the farmland, seeping back into the groundwater.
Data centers.
Amazon denies any wrongdoing here. They say that their water runoff has very low levels of nitrates, and overall they're a fairly low water user in the area relative to some of the other water users in the area. They say they agreed to the settlement in the interest of helping the community with its wastewater problem.
So horrible.
The money will be used for public infrastructure.
Eminent domain.
Private wells. People in the area will be contacted if they're eligible to collect any of the fund.
And that is what you call eminent domain, the United States government having the full authority to take your land and steal it from you with the requirement of compensation on your end. And that's what they say. But they can do whatever they want. Right, the United States government at any point can send a SEAL team over to your house and assassinate you, whack you, and just take your land, right? Or they can, just assassinate your character, do whatever they want. They could take your home, and it's not going to be eminent domain the way that you think it is. You're not going to just be compensated so easily. There's always going to be the first means, which is to make you not know anything about it. Taking of the land. Data centers are popping up across heavily populated areas at an alarming rate. Pretty soon, you might not be able to drink or bathe in your own home either. Watch what's already happening to the Americans living near them. So we're building data centers. Makes no sense because really, we're basically building on top of land that we could have used for, homesteads and building farms and agriculture and, infrastructure. But no, we build data centers. That makes us pretty vulnerable to EMP attacks, especially during a world war, by the way. Not very smart. And it also leaves us very vulnerable to energy and the cost of energy and electrical grids. All of this is a horrible idea. This has to be some unified, this organized attack on the United States economy itself. Has to be.
This is our cold water pressure in the kitchen. This is where I fill up water for storage. Those are the things we have to fill up to flush the toilets.
So you can see the sediment from the data center. Wow, and that's just from the water coming out of your faucet.
Yeah, and this is what's in all the pipes.
Just
that's
the well
crazy.
itself is probably $20,000, and that's not counting any of the
all
faucets,
the replacement of the fixtures and faucets and toilets and the lines that come underneath the house.
This is so satanic and demonic.
Because you really feel like you are up against this huge wall that you can't penetrate. There's nothing that you can do, and they don't care.
They don't.
That hit me.
Yeah, me too. Doesn't sound like we have much of a voice, It doesn't seem like they have much of a decision. Yeah, you don't have any water pressure. You got sediment in your water. Just suck it up and deal with it. Tim, have you ever lived in a place where you can't drink the water?
Never.
All right, so I spent a little over a year out in East Texas living in a house with non-potable water. And let me tell you, when you're living off of using like a water bottle or like a gallon jug to like shower or brush your teeth or do any of these things, it's not a fun way to live, okay? And it's a lifestyle, unfortunately, that a lot of these people are having to adopt. You look at the infrastructure, instead of putting in water resources for these people that live out in the boonies or whatever, like I have, not dissing anybody, instead they're gonna funnel all the resources to these massive companies, and then you get screwed even worse.
Well, and not just that, they're not providing any like subsidies for you to buy all that bottled water.
Right.
First of all, it's going to be cheaper for you to run a faucet or drink out of tap than it ever will be to buy these giant gallon of jugs just to wash yourself with. That's the equation that's not adding up here. They want to punish you, not give you potable water, have these data centers. You're going to start having Flint, Michigans all over the United States.
Well, it's just
is what
going
it
to be the
sounds
US.
like.
It's just gonna be the
100%.
US, and
Right.
That's the new standard, and don't complain about it.
Yeah, don't complain about it. But then again, no one's providing you like a monthly stipend to be able to drink water or, you know, be able to bathe yourself in, which are just bare minimum essentials that we demand here in America, that it's not too much to ask for. But then, no, Rex, we're going to ask for $200 billion.
That's right.
We're going to ask for
Right.
$200 billion, and we're going to
Insane.
go overseas,
Insane.
throw Tomahawk missiles, close the strait, make all your gas prices go up, and we can't even get people the water and the help that they need back at home. That
Totally.
pisses me off.
It pisses me off, too. It's completely outrageous. I'm right there with you in your energy. I mean, just listen to this. More than 43% of the largest tracked data centers are in areas of high or extreme water stress. You can't make this stuff up. It's as
Crazy.
bad as it could be designed to be that way to hurt you.
Yep. And that's exactly what's going on. That's exactly what they're doing. And so it's a dangerous thing. We're in a dangerous period in our economy in the United States. IMF warns of tokenization risks. The IMF says tokenization could enable instant settlement, but may amplify volatility through automated markets and smart contracts. It called for clearer legal frameworks and stronger global coordination as cross-border tokenized assets could implicate overnight. So I looked into this a little bit, and I was curious to see how this kind of impacted things. How did this kind of impact the market? I said, what does this tweet mean for retail? How does this change your findings? And again, Coin Bureau tweet is highlighted a fresh IMF policy noted titled Tokenized Finance, released early April 2026 by IMF financial counselor Tobias Adrian. Flags that tokenization, turning real-world assets like stocks, bonds, cash, or even crypto rails into programmable digital tokens or shared ledger/blockchains, is a structural shift in finance, not just a minor upgrade. Benefits include instant/atomic settlement, lower costs, reduced intermediaries, more transparency, and faster cross-border flows. Again, that's XRP right there. But risks include amplifying volatility and instability because automated markets plus smart contracts can trigger rapid self-reinforcing liquidations/contagion with no traditional pause. Speed plus concentration plus fragmentation could make crisis harder/faster for regulators to contain, and cross-border tokenized assets complicate oversight and monetary policy. The IMF explicitly calls for clearer legal frameworks, robust code governance, safe settlement assets, public trust anchors, and stronger global coordination to manage this. What this means for retail investors specifically. Short-term caution signal shows us that it is about tokenized markets, which increasingly include crypto utilities like XRP for payments, RWAs, stablecoins, could see faster and more extreme volatility than today. Retail traders might face quicker drawdowns, flash crash style moves, or automated liquidations with less time to react. Traditional buffers at the slow things down are eroding. Longer term upside, if frameworks are built, retail gains from cheaper/faster access to assets, better liquidity, lower fees, and inclusion, especially in payments or tokenized securities. But retail is generally less equipped than institutions to handle the new speed/automation risks. Think more sophisticated risk management tools, hedging, or compliance needed. Bottom line for everyday holders. This isn't anti-crypto doom. It's a warning that innovation without guardrails brings crypto-style volatility into traditional finance. Prepare for higher speed markets. How this changes my previous findings and latest updates as of April 6, 2026, it doesn't materially change the overall bullish thesis on private sector crypto winning over CBDC/surveillance coins, or an XRP and Bitcoin benefiting from regulatory clarity. In fact, it reinforces the need for exactly what the Digital Assets Market Clarity Act aims to deliver: statutory rules splitting CFTC and SEC oversight, DeFi safe harbors, commodity status for assets like XRP/Bitcoin, SAB 121 reliefs for banks, and anti-CBDC provisions. The IMF's call for clearer legal frameworks is a global echo for U.S. legislative momentum. looking at all of this also tells us that the Clarity Act still is in the Senate Banking Committee. Senate returns from Easter, April 13th. So again, we're not going to have an official answer really until April 13th, really when they actually host this entire and then wrap it up. Okay, we need to host a vote, and that needs to be concluded. That is when the Clarity Act will be done. Markup now firmly targeted for the second half of April 2026, possible as early as mid to late month per recent senator signals like Hagerty. Stablecoin yield compromise, no passive yield on idle balance, but actively based towards OK, is in play with mixed reception but progressing. Odds of full 2026 patches have slipped. Some analysts say 50 to 60% if it doesn't clear committee by late April due to election year calendar pressure. But White House and pro-crypto senators remain optimistic, no major reversal. The CBDC ban amendment, unchanged, passed the Senate 89 to 10 in March as part of the housing bill. House action pending and still faces some hurdles, but the anti-surveillance momentum holds. XRP/Bitcoin. XRP's holding at $1.30 range with a strong institutional ETF inflows and whale accumulation despite Q1 weaknesses. Clarity would codify commodity status and unlock deeper bank/payment adoption, perfect for Ripple's ISO 222 cross-border use case. Bitcoin remains the digital gold hedge. Tokenization growth, RWAs, already over $27 billion. Plays directly into both. Geopolitics/Iran tensions, no new direct linkage here, but ongoing macro uncertainty continues to support non-sovereign assets as hedges. Retail versus banks. Banks/institutions will benefit the most, and even more so in a tokenized world. They have the infrastructure, compliance terms, and capital to build/operate the new rails, custody tokenized assets, and manage the IMF noted risks. History shows regulatory clarity post-ETF era funnels big money in first. Retail benefits secondarily via price appreciation, cheaper products, and innovation, but faces the amplified volatility headwinds the IMF describes. Pure speculation or low compliance projects fare the worst. Broader crypto space shows us that the compliance utility tokens like XRP, ISO 222 plays, and Bitcoin win the biggest. Speculative/meme coins or non-tokenization ready projects lag. The Wild West ends faster, favoring those ready for institutional grade frameworks. And again, that's XRP, that's Bitcoin. That is really those two as the number one, I would say. And then Quant, Solana, XLM for sure. All of these assets are probably going to be what the SEC considers more legitimate. Okay. Probably World Liberty Financial, right, for Donald Trump. Who knows? Maybe not. Maybe so. We'll see. But the net takeaway is that the IMF tweet is a neutral to constructive warning that actually bolsters the case for U.S. leadership via Clarity Act. Private sector innovation and assets like XRP/Bitcoin tied to real utility/tokenization still comes out ahead of government coins. Retail should focus on the long game. Regulatory clarity reduces uncertainty but introduces faster markets. Position accordingly and diversify. Monitor Senate action post April 13 for the next catalyst. Not financial advice. Crypto is volatile. Always do your own research. So that is kind of what I found on the entire crypto markets. And again, we're looking at all of these. That's kind of what the situation is looking like, right? Oil is right back at $113. I think oil is going to go over $200 a barrel. I said that from the beginning. I don't see the United States getting out of this war. I definitely think Trump wants to go harder on it. And I think that's what's happening. Okay. And again, just wrapping up with crypto, Bitcoin option market is quietly pricing a major downside move. Options data shows traders are bracing for a sharp Bitcoin drop as weak demand and fragile positionings leave the market exposed to a break below key levels, a report from BitFetch shows. So when we look at all of this, Bitcoin's seemingly stable trading range masks growing downside risks in derivative markets, according to Bitfinex, where traders are paying for premium for protection and positioning for sharp moves lower. A negative gamma setup below about 68,000 could force market makers to sell more Bitcoin as prices fall, potentially accelerating a drop toward the $60,000 level in a self-reinforcing feedback loop, said the report. Weakening spot demand shows us that narrower corporate treasury participation and heavy supply waiting near 74,000 suggest Bitcoin's current calm reflects a fragile equilibrium rather than durable strength. So all these stories are pretty big stories that are affecting everything. Oil and silver, interestingly enough, I thought this was a big article. Oil and silver are trading way more popularly than XRP Solana on Hyperliquid. Again, traders on decentralized exchanges like Hyperliquid are increasingly favoring perpetual futures tied to commodities. In the past 24 hours, oil and silver contracts on Hyperliquid have surpassed $900 million in combined volume, far outpacing large cap for Solana and XRP. Leveraged traders on decentralized exchanges like Hyperliquid are favoring traditional commodities like oil and silver, trading them more aggressively than crypto tokens such as XRP and Solana. Perpetual futures contracts tied to crude oil benchmarks, WTI and Brent, have recorded a combined trading volume of over $500 million in the past 24 hours. The silver contract alone accounted for more than $412 million in trades. By trading activity, oil and silver contracts now far outpace Solana and XRP perps, which posted $176 million and then $31 million in volume, respectively. For context, both XRP and Solana have multi-billion-dollar market caps and rank among the world's largest cryptocurrencies. The trend comes as commodities have turned highly volatile amid the ongoing Iran conflict, which has disrupted crude oil supply through the strategic Strait of Hormuz, a critical choke point for roughly 20% of global oil shipments. It underscores Hyperliquid's emergence as a go-to platform for price discovery in commodities, especially over weekends when traditional markets have closed. So again, Hyperliquid's telling us that when you look at all of these markets, you might want to be investing in oil. Me personally, I believe, and based on this tweet, we got over like over 5,500 views now on this YouTube short I posted. Let's take a listen to this. I think this is overall, when we look at the entire market and all of the breaking news, this is what we need to pay attention to. This is lost footage of JFK, which resurfaced, and I posted this a few days ago, and we already got like a 377 likes on it. We got like 5,000, almost 6,000 views now. So let's take a listen to this.
We must face the fact that the United States is neither omnipotent.
Pretty relevant for today's time.
That we are only 6% of the world's population, and that we cannot impose our will upon the other 94% of mankind.
Right.
That we cannot right every wrong or reverse each adversity, and that therefore there cannot be an American solution to every world problem.
Yep. And so that tweet did pretty good, or not tweet, that YouTube short did pretty good, but it's true. Right? It's absolutely true. We could be doing so much more. We could have such a better future. We could have such a great future. We could really do a lot with all of these different markets, all of the different possibilities for the American manifest destiny. We can do so much, but we have to make sure that we're not trying to govern the entire world. You know, we have to allow the world to be free to some extent. Yeah, my account got locked today. I got put in Twitter jail because I had posted. I didn't even post nothing that bad. It was crazy. But you know, you say something, you know, that goes outside of the narrative. Really, it wasn't. Again, I don't even know what I tweeted. It didn't even really tell me. Just kind of, I don't know. I'll be back. I'll be back on Twitter very shortly. Breaking: Iran has delivered its highly anticipated 10-point response to the U.S. 15-point plan. Iran's 10-point plan includes guarantee that Iran will not be attacked again, permanent end to the war, not just a ceasefire, end to the Israeli strikes in Lebanon, lifting of all U.S. sanctions on Iran, end to all regional fighting against Iranian allies. In return, Iran would open the Strait of Hormuz. Iran would impose a Hormuz fee of $2 million per ship. Iran would split these fees with Oman. Iran would provide rules for safe passage through Hormuz. And then 10, Iran would use Hormuz fees for reconstruction instead of reparations. President Trump's deadline for a peace deal with Iran is 24 hours away. That was just 43 minutes ago while we were streaming, and that was from the Kobasi letter who tweeted that. Again, that was Iran's 10-point peace plan. Who knows? At the end of the day, I don't see it happening. I don't see Trump complying with it. Trump wants free flow of oil. And so with the unreasonable requests here of not, again, keyword, number 3 here, ending the Israeli strikes in Lebanon. Yeah, let's see what Trump does about that. Because permanent end to the war, not just a ceasefire, I think Trump would be fine with that. Guarantee that Iran will not be attacked again, I think he'd be somewhat fine with that. There's no reason not to, unless you would have a problem with ending the Israeli strikes in Lebanon. And then 4, lifting all U.S. sanctions on Iran. Trump's not going to do that. We want no nuclear program for Iran, according to Trump. And so that is the main objective. Trump's not going to bat down. He's not going to accept those sanctions, most likely. And then number 5, end to all regional fighting against Iranian allies. Definitely not going to happen. So one or two of those really could possibly happen, but I don't see Trump abiding by any of it. I see this being a shot in the dark, and I think that we're going to be continuing this war. Vladimir Putin said the multipolar world will not have hegemons. Yes, there are economic giants like India or China, but it doesn't mean that anyone should dominate global politics or security. We don't believe there should be domination. Everyone must be equal.
And from international law, I wouldn't really speak about any domineering pose. It doesn't mean that this new multipolar world should have any hegemons, because no one is speaking about this, not in BRICS, not in the SCO. Everyone has equal rights in this multipolar world. And from international law point of view, everyone must have equal rights, must be in the similar position. Yes, there are economic giants like India or China, and actually our country is among top 4 biggest economies if we speak about the purchasing power parity. These are the current realities.
Yeah, so
that's
Russia's
not
taking some
something
hits.
that we would like to have. That's what international organizations calculate, but it doesn't mean that anyone should dominate over the politics or over global security. So we do not believe that there should be some domination. Everyone must be equal.
That's a crazy statement, and that's kind of loser talk, I think. I mean, Israel's not talking like that. The United States isn't talking like that. And I'm not saying that Putin is wrong necessarily, but at the end of the day, he kind of is, because it does matter. It does matter that the country of Russia is basically considering switching a lot of their currency to yuan, or at least exchanging oil in yuan and giving China that kind of leverage. So that is definitely a problem. Watch explosion from a tanker near the Bridge of the Americas in Panama City, Panama. So look at that. Massive explosion. Panama City. Very interesting. A lot of trade goes through Panama, by the way. If you know anything, you understand. We depend on a lot of trade that goes through Panama and the Panama Canal. Massive geopolitical escalation on Al Jazeera. Israel just intentionally bombed Iran's massive South Pars gas field, crossing into an absolute red line. Zionist regime is deliberately trying to trigger a catastrophic regional war that will completely destroy the global energy market. 100% agree with that.
South Pars forms part of a
Let's take a listen to
9,000
this.
Have made the comments after Israel targeted Iran's largest petrochemical facility linked to the South Pars gas field. The site is a critical energy hub. It's accounting for around half of Tehran's petrochemical production. A previous Israeli strike there in March triggered Iranian retaliation against energy targets across the Gulf. South Pars forms part of a 9,700 square kilometer gas field. It's the largest on Earth, and it's jointly held by Iran and Qatar. It's the backbone of Iran's energy. It supplies around 80% of the country's domestic natural gas. Stretching beneath the Gulf, the field is divided. Roughly 1/3 lies within Iran's territory as South Pars, while the larger part extends into Qatari waters. It's known as the North Dome field. We're going to go back to Mohammed Val in Tehran. So, an
Very
attack
interesting.
on South Pars field for a second time. What's the reaction there?
Well, here it's considered a red line, and this is the second time it has been attacked. Probably the good news is that the main component of the facility hasn't been destroyed or touched in this attack. It's 2 units.
Israel targets energy facilities. Iran's largest petrochemical complex hit in Asulea. Facility processes natural gas from offshore South Pars. Iran says several production units damaged.
That provide electricity to it. So it's like a shot across the bow again regarding this facility that for the Iranians is vital. And they had, remember that in the past when a couple of weeks ago it was hit, they reacted and they struck back against Qatar facilities, LNG facilities in Ras Al Khaimah.
Yeah, so the Saudi nations are definitely taking a hit, and that's not good. I mean, because eventually Saudi Arabia or Dubai, for example, the city of Dubai, taking a lot of hits because they make a lot of their money from tourism. And when they're getting bombed all the time, nobody's going to go there. All the rich people aren't going to go there. And what does that mean for Qatar? Well, kind of the same thing, right? And a lot of our journalists in the United States are paid by Qatar. Tucker Carlson, I would probably bet that he is paid by Qatar based on his rhetoric and how much he seems to love Qatar. So you look at all these different countries, you look at these circumstances, that's kind of what's going on. Okay, so when we look at the rest of these stories, let's see what else is going on. Breaking news. Footage shows, 11 minutes ago, footage shows an Iranian ballistic missile striking the Jubail industry complex in Saudi Arabia with 2 direct impacts. Oh, yeah. It's going to keep going. It's going to keep going. And again, Iran is targeting... Why is Iran targeting Saudi Arabia? Well, not for nothing. Iran is targeting Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia has chosen to ally with the United States and with Israel versus their brethren, their Arab brethren. Again, Iran, Hezbollah, and really this entire section. Iran does not want to fight Saudi Arabia or Qatar, but they're saying, hey, if you're fighting with the United States, if you're going to aid our enemy instead of aiding your own brethren, our people, then we're just going to bomb you. And that is kind of that is the reasoning behind all of that. 50 minutes ago, we rebuilt Germany, and now Germany tells us it's not their war. It isn't their war. They shouldn't have to fight in this war that we started with Israel for Israel. So Israel can be the main superpower in the Middle East? I don't think so.
Germany telling us.
Like, all I know is Donald Trump, if you think the American people are going to be down with this, you're crazy. Maybe this is the part of your entire plan is to get the American people riled up. Maybe the whole idea is to get the word out. But I think it's absolutely crazy. And ultimately, I think it's extremely unhealthy. We need to get out of the Iran war. We shouldn't be involved in more wars. Continue to look at news stories here. Saudi Arabian citizen refutes claims of an Iranian attack on Jubail, documenting that the industrial facilities are operating at full capacity. Official spokesperson for the Saudi Ministry of Defense, 7 ballistic missiles launched towards the eastern province were intercepted and destroyed. Oh, excuse me. With debris falling near energy facilities, damage assessment is ongoing. Crazy. Oh, gotta turn that off. I don't want no copyright for Saudi Arabian music on my live stream. That's kind of the scene there, though. So it does appear that Saudi Arabia has been struck by Iran. And again, only because Saudi Arabia has been aiding the United States. The UK refuses to use the UK refuses U.S. use of bases for strikes on Iranian bridges and power, targeting civilian facilities, potential war crime. Again, we saw this footage earlier. There's the bridges. Trump said that this would all be starting tomorrow. I had a feeling it would be tonight, and so that's why I wanted tonight's episode specifically to be titled about tomorrow. Tuesday was when he said all of this was going to go down, so maybe there will, but I think the timing was meant to be for today. Clarity Act could die if not passed by summer. It's going to die. Innovation will die potentially here. According to the U.S. Senator, we already kind of know all of that. Tucker Carlson says Donald Trump betrayed Christians and rejects the Bible. He points to Trump not putting his hand on the Bible when taking his oath. I was about 15 feet away when I saw it. He did not put his hand on the Bible. Should have been maybe a clue that we need to pause and think about. What is this? That suggests he knows this is real and you're rejecting it intentionally. You know that you're doing it and you're not doing it anyway. So let's take a look at what Tucker Carlson had to say.
But he did not put his hand on the Bible.
Totally true.
And that should have, maybe some did, but.
Well, the more important thing, Tucker, is that Donald Trump did convert to Judaism, and so did his daughter. And Jared Kushner is Jewish. You know, you need to connect the dots, really. I mean, Jared Kushner, you know, I mean, whether good or bad, whatever you want to think about it, he did end up buying 666 Park Avenue, Jared Kushner, and he is the one negotiating all of the Abraham Accords, Jared Kushner. He is the one that is talking very closely with Netanyahu, and he is pretty much working all of these real estate deals in Gaza for this new Gaza with Steve Witkoff. So it is these people, and they are Jewish. And so that is what we're dealing with. Trump wears the kippah. He visited the Wailing Wall as he was instructed to do, but more than that, he is constantly praising Israel first above America. And that is what's happening. Israel got a hold of Trump, and at the end of the day, Trump sold out for Israel. And so everything Trump says now is for Israel because, honestly, I think it's because of the Epstein files. I think it's because of the decisions our world leaders wanted to make behind closed doors while in power, right? Honestly, you have Howard Lutnick, who is benefiting from all of the tariff buybacks, all of this stuff. You have all of the very close relationship that Howard Lutnick had with Jeffrey Epstein on Epstein's Island. Very interesting. So let's look at what Tucker had to say here.
Certainly the leaders of the American Christian churches, by and large, said absolutely nothing. And maybe because they said nothing, this accelerated. These are the same people who sort of didn't notice somehow that on Inauguration Day, the president did not take his oath of office with his hand on the Bible. His wife stood next to him holding it. I was about 15 feet away and saw it.
I remember that.
But he did not put his hand on the Bible. And that should have been maybe a clue that we need to pause and think about, what is this? Why wouldn't you put your hand on the Bible? If you don't believe in the Bible, you think it's just a book, there's no cost to you to putting your hand on it, just kind of following the protocol, going along with the tradition. All presidents do it. Why aren't you doing it?
Very interesting.
And you're not doing it intentionally. You're choosing not to put your hand on the Bible when you take that oath.
Yep.
That suggests not that you don't believe it's real, because if you didn't believe it was real, why would you care? You'd put on the costume and take it off. Doesn't matter. That suggests you know it is real and you're rejecting it intentionally.
Yep.
You know what you're doing and you're doing it anyway. But nobody asked questions about that either. It seemed kind of inappropriate, given the celebration then in progress, to ask, why wouldn't you put your hand on the Bible when you take the oath of office to lead our nation?
Trump is Jewish.
But pretty much nobody did. I didn't. I'll admit that. I saw it and didn't say one word. Bothered me ever since. But right around January 4th, it became clear that maybe he didn't put his hand on the Bible because he affirmatively rejects what's inside that book. And what's inside that book are limits on human behavior. Because if there's one theme that spans all 66 books in the Christian Bible, it's that you are not God. And you cannot assume his powers. Because you don't have them. You may convince yourself you have them. You may want them. You may have been promised them. But in the end, they're not yours. And you'll never have them. And you can only destroy yourself and the people around you by pretending that you do.
Right.
That is the consistent message that spans from Genesis to Revelation. And people who ignore that law are punished. Just like people who ignore gravity or freezing temperatures are punished. Because these are laws that were not created by people. They supersede people. But on January 4th, when the President of the United States told us he was stealing, that our country was stealing something that didn't belong to us, people should have piped up and said something, but they didn't. And that got us all the way to yesterday, which was Easter Sunday. Easter Sunday.
And then on Easter Sunday, what he was about to finish saying is that on Easter Sunday, they prayed over President Trump to kill many Iranians, as if Jesus Christ would really honor such a prayer, to kill, right? But it is a good point. Why didn't Donald Trump put his hand on the Holy Bible? Well, a better question is, what was the second book on top of the Bible? What was the second book on top of that Bible? Because in my opinion, I think it was the Torah, if I had to guess. Because again, we remember when Trump converted to Judaism in 2017, and I think he did it again in 2022. He visited the Wailing Wall. Ivanka Trump converted to Judaism. Jared Kushner has been running the Abraham Accords this entire time, the entire Gaza deals, the real estate deals, all of it. He owns 666 Park Avenue, Jared Kushner. All of this stuff is very important to make connections for. So ultimately, what do you think? You know, is this crazy or am I crazy? SEC Chair Paul Atkins says the crypto safe harbor proposal has advanced to the White House review with a formal rule expected shortly. The proposal includes a startup exemption, allowing crypto projects to raise capital without immediate registration requirements. Interesting stuff happening with crypto. Hopefully people are smart enough and intuitive enough to invest. Make some money. Bombshell, U.S. intelligence reveals to the world that Iran relocated its remaining estimated 440 kilograms of highly enriched uranium hexafluoride stockpile to Pickaxe Mountain, a granite-buried bunker 80 to 100 meters deep, designed to withstand bunker buster bombs. So, that's where we're at right now.
Buried deep in granite, where evil scientists have been working around the clock, cobbling back together a program that was obliterated during Operation Midnight Hammer. The bunker busters might not be able to do the trick. Reports say special forces might have to be inserted to physically shut it down.
We're really needing special forces a hell of a lot too much, I would say. And for the little bit that we've needed them, we literally almost had a close call just yesterday. It ended up being a miracle that these troops got out there. They'll make a movie about it. It'll be a whole Hollywood film. It'll be a blockbuster. Tom Cruise will play in it, or Glenn Powell or something. And, you know, they'll take all the greatest actors. And it'll be some great American sniper film. It'll be inspiring. It was a cool story. It was a miracle that our troops were able to save this other pilot. God bless and thank God. But know something. What was going to happen if it was like 100 troops that were involved in all this? What if all of this ended up leading to 100 troops dying, or this one soldier dying? Well, I think it would have been a precursor for Trump to say, we need to nuke Iran. We need to nuke Iran. We need to blow them off the map. And it would have been a precursor to do it. So really all of this was planned. There was a contingency. If the troops would have died, it would have just been another reason to bomb them harder. And Trump wouldn't have cared twice. Wouldn't have been no problem, no big deal. And so that's my problem with all of this. It's just a bunch of lies, a bunch of propaganda. Warning, graphic content here. Flash, Israeli society struck by Zionist syndrome. Aggressions in Israel are on the sharp rise. In a car, Jews run over anti-Zionist Jews who are peacefully demonstrating for peace. It's crazy. So again, graphic content here. We're watching a white van in Israel accelerating through a bunch of non-Zionist Jews, it looks like. There seems to be a protest happening. So, forget not. With every war comes the risk of a regime change in your own country. Even you as the instigator of the war, which is the United States and Israel. And it seems like America is still coming out on top. Our regime is still holding strong. I mean, we have protests happening in Minneapolis, but it's like if you look at the state of Israel right now, maybe the real regime change is really happening in Israel. I think that's a real theory to consider. Because when we look at this, I mean, this does not look like a unified Israel to me. So what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think? Am I crazy? Breaking Wave 98 of Operation True Promise 4. Zionist container ship 190 struck with cruise missiles, massive fire. U.S. amphibious helicopter carrier hull number 41 struck, forced to retreat deep into the Indian Ocean. North and South Tel Aviv struck, strategic centers in Haifa hit. Chemical factories in Barkaz destroyed. Zionist drone production center in UAE destroyed. Ali al-Salim base aircraft struck. Al-Adaid base, Kuwait, helicopter storage and personal accommodations destroyed. Victoria base, Baghdad, command center struck by Israeli resistance. 5 terrorist faction hideouts in northern Iraq destroyed. Al-Karj base struck by Arash drones, the base that hosted the Night Stalkers unit behind the failed Isfahan operation. Trump's rude rhetoric and baseless threats will never compensate for the disgrace of humiliation of America in West Asia. So again, this was from the IRGC. And that's basically everything that they just said there. China, meanwhile, to Trump, you created a global crisis for no reason.
Operations against Iran ceasefire as well as peace.
Let's rewind this a little bit.
Disruptions to the passage through the Strait of Hormuz is the illegal U.S.-Israeli military operations against Iran ceasefire as well as peace and stability in the Gulf region are the fundamental prerequisites to keep the international shipping routes safe and unimpeded. Parties need to work together to promote de-escalation and prevent regional turmoil from having a greater impact on global economy and energy security.
So isn't this just great? This is great for China because China's like, well, you guys had the Strait of Hormuz, but you're giving it up. So I guess we'll just come in and take it. We got to secure it. Dangerous area. You got to let us Chinese. We got to come over and take it from you now, America, because you guys can't control it anymore. Look at what happened. We were influenced by a foreign nation called Israel, and now we don't even have the Strait of Hormuz when we had it to begin with. Everything was good. We were taking in that money. Inflows. Now we got to resecure it. Now it has to be a successful op. And if it's not, we are going to be humiliated as a country. So Trump has been put in a corner here. So with all of these different regime changes happening at once, we have Iran, we have Lebanon, we have Syria, and then Israel even is undergoing a massive regime change right now, I would say. So all of these things happening at once. America is still standing strong, but we are still the enemy until we detach from Israel. Israel is creating all of this mess, and I think the entire world knows that. And again, this is all for the greater Israel project. Breaking: President Trump just launched an airstrike on my portfolio. Yeah, totally right. Totally. Oh, who knows? More strikes to happen tomorrow. This was just 6 hours ago. This is one of the highlights from the White House speech earlier today. Let's listen to Pete Hegseth. More SNL clips.
Today will be the largest volume of strikes since day one of this operation. Tomorrow, even more than today. And then Iran has a choice. Choose wisely, because this president does not play around. You can ask Soleimani, you can ask Maduro, you can ask Khamenei. Per the president's direction.
Yeah, so just more war rhetoric, more of the same old from Pete Hegseth. I mean, you never served. I mean, honestly, like seriously, I don't know if has he served. I don't know if Pete Hegseth has actually served in combat. I know he actually was. I think he actually was in the military from what I believe. I don't know much about Hegseth, but what I will say is just it's very surprising. He would have fooled me. I would have never guessed he was military just because it's not a smart op. But his job is to be loyal to the president, so I understand. But now we have to win this war against Iran if we're going to really do it. Chris Perkins, now head of Franklin Crypto, Clarity is happening on CoinDesk. I think it's going to happen, but if it doesn't matter. Interesting.
Right? Clarity, I personally think there's a very strong likelihood, if you look at prediction markets, they agree with me. I think it's going to happen. But if it doesn't matter, because you have an amazing chairman, Sealy and Atkins, who are giving us the clarity needed for institutions to enter that space. And
for institutions,
every day we get more clarity, it allows us to navigate.
Yeah, it allows the institutions. But we all want to win in crypto, and crypto is something I would advise most people to be invested in. Breaking news: TMZ just claimed Congressman Tim Burchett revealed to them that aliens are real and that they have been in contact with them between humans.
This is and where it was. I can't.
Interesting. Let's look at this.
Get into too much specifics, but it was elaborating on some stuff that we'd asked for, and it was important to get this person in us.
So again, all of this is happening. You have to also consider Project Bluebeam, probably, right? A government operation to make the masses believe that there's this massive alien invasion. And really, when it's U.S. military tech, really it's more of a psyop. Or this could be a disclosure operation. This could be a real disclosure. And if you read the book after Disclosure, it's called AD. I think it's by Dr. Stephen Greer. He talks a little bit about all of this. So what do you guys think about this entire thing? Is this Project Bluebeam, where they are creating this entire psyop of the alien takeover, or is this actual? Could there be some truth to this? Are we looking at the Anunnaki theory? Are we looking at the Nephilim? Are we looking at the story of the Book of Enoch? All of these things coming back into fruition in our modern age. What is the truth?
Secure setting to where we could ask him these questions, and there was somebody in the meeting with us. One of my colleagues, I guess you'd say, was basically there just to kind of upset the apple cart and to throw a monkey wrench into the deal. And every time a question was asked by this particular party, it was really the answers were out there, and they gave them, and they gave specifics, they gave addresses, they gave times and dates and people that were in the meeting. And this went all the way up to the executive branch of previous presidents, not this current president.
So there have been different reports over the years.
Not this current
Some
president.
Reports
Wait a minute. You mean to tell me President Trump and you mean to tell me President Trump's uncle, John Trump, who worked for the FBI, and he basically is the guy who obtained all of the Nikola Tesla documents, all of the secret documents, the files, the ray gun, all of the time travel machines, all of this stuff that Nikola Tesla had created, patented. You mean to tell me that John Trump, who worked for the FBI and recovered all of these, Trump has no knowledge of any of this? I say that's a lie. I say a book that they wrote in the 1860s called what was it again? Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Adventures. And it was written in the 1800s by an attorney named Ingersoll Lockwood. And it talks about this man named, what was it, Fump? Mr. Fump? I can't remember exactly how the story went. But this individual, this character, basically he lived in this castle called Castle Fump or something like Castle Trump, Castle Fump or whatever. And his son journeyed and traveled through all of these different worlds within worlds. And so if you look at all of these different theories, what is the truth? Does Trump really know nothing? I would say probably he knows a lot more than what they're saying.
There have been pieces of machinery that were found that did not seem earthly. And then there have been reports about life that is not earthly. Which one of those two, or both, are you talking about? A form of life that is not earthly, or just something mechanical that's not earthly?
I'd say you'd be safe to say both.
The way you described this, whatever happened at this meeting, this briefing that was happening,
To my research, I think that's right.
That if we knew, we would feel that we are in danger? You said you wouldn't sleep at night if you knew the things that I saw in these briefings.
Yeah,
should we believe that? That's the part where it seemed alarming.
I don't think we're at danger of this. I mean, if these things exist as I think they do, they could have destroyed us with a blink of an eye. I just don't see that, and I think that's. I just think, but I do think they have the technology and the capabilities of something that we can't understand or we can't grasp.
What I want to make sure I'm understanding is a member of our government has told you and others, I guess, that there is a form of alien life and machinery which maybe brought this living creature here that interacted in some form with people?
Yeah, they have, and they've. It's pretty wild. I know, but I'm just telling you, I'm not going to lie to you. I'd take a lie to tell you. You want to put me on a polygraph, I'll take it. But this is what the guy told me. I mean, I've had a very high-ranking naval official describe. I've talked about this before. Underwater craft, something big as a football field, moving at over 200 miles an hour. And there's no fish in the ocean that would do that. We don't even have a sub that'll probably do 40 miles an hour under the. And the last thing he said before he left my office was
interesting.
It was kind of weird because he didn't go out he went out the side door, which nobody ever uses. And he looked at me and pulled me up close. And he said, "Tim, they're real." And that's the last thing he said to me. That'll be the title of my book, I guess. Matt Gaetz was involved in something here just recently. He was interviewed and he talked about this interbreeding thing with.
We saw that. We saw that.
Yeah. Well, that's a true story.
He's talking about the interbreeding in the Book of Enoch. If you know the Book of Enoch, it talks about how the fallen angels, and many of them had basically the fallen angels, and some of them Nephilim, being called the Nephilim, the giants of the first days, they had slept with the human women, and they had children with these. The Nephilim had children with the real women. This is a real story. And so essentially, this is the reason and the purpose for why God created the flood, was to wipe out, and this is all in the book of Genesis. The book of Genesis in the Bible will talk about the Nephilim or the Nephilim, however you want to say that. And the epics of Gilgamesh and all of these different forms of history and archaeology will confirm the same things. So, and again, we know for sure today that, when we look at all of this, it's very subjective, but there does appear to be a real possibility, right? You look at the Egyptian hieroglyphics and you see the Anunnaki, you study the ancient civilizations. A lot of these elites worship deities, Egyptian deities and Egyptian gods, because they believe that's the earliest form of human civilization. And so that is their belief. And, that is the extraterrestrial belief, so to speak, that the Anunnaki came to Earth and gave us all of this technological wisdom and really created human civilization. That's the theory. And so whether that be true or not, it remains to be seen, but we're going to learn.
Military personnel. I think that would be a good story to talk to him about if you all can do that.
Right. He says he learned that from someone in the military.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a guy, it was an officer in uniform.
Yeah.
And
You can also Google Project, I believe, Pegasus. I think it's called Project Pegasus. And it was an operation. Honestly, if you Google it today, it'll tell you it is like this Israeli software thing. But actually, there used to be a Project Pegasus in the past, and it was a time travel operation. Then they had Operation Looking Glass, or Project Looking Glass, which is where they were able to see glimpses into the past and into the future. And really, through all of this was found in S2. This is all alleged, the legends that is top secret. A lot of people aren't supposed to know it, but this is what's basically told to your Congress people. So this is the big theory. And whether or not this is Project Bluebeam, where it is the U.S. military creating a hoax kind of alien invasion, that's Project Bluebeam, which stems off of Project Blue Book, which is the government's rollout of all of that. Or there's the very real possibility that there is interdimensional and extraterrestrial beings coming to Earth and communicating with humans. And so I believe both are true. I believe that there is an element of the United States military, obviously, manipulating this information and using it for their own political purposes, sure. But there is a truth and a fact that when you look at a lot, well, you can't say if it's a fact yet, right? But based on a lot of the research you would do if you took the time to do it, you'd find that a lot of these outcomes are very true. A lot of these world presidents and world leaders, they have admitted to having these strange encounters of the fourth kind, whether it be through interdimensional beings. A lot of them say that it has been through taking DMT, the drug DMT. Don't recommend that. I'm just saying, or psilocybin. They've seen these interdimensional beings. And then there's also the physical aliens, of which in the movies, which is the Greys, the Reptilians, the Andromedans, and all of these different forms of extraterrestrial life that come from the Zeta Reticuli, and which is a star system very similar to the Orion's Belt. And then you look at the Egyptian pyramids and how the Orion's Belt matches perfectly with the Egyptian pyramids. So, very interesting stuff.
And Matt and I and Representative Luna, we all went down to Florida, and we were turned away. And then Matt made a phone call to somebody at the Pentagon, and all of a sudden they opened the doors and brought the pilots in that were supposed to tell us the story in the first place. And he can probably elaborate a little bit more on that. But that was pretty fantastic. That was a made-for-TV special right there in itself.
It's so funny listening to the boomers explain extraterrestrials and that kind of possibility. I've been looking into this stuff for years. I wrote my high school capstone project on the existence of aliens, and I got an A on it because it was excellent research, and I included great sources from Dr. Stephen Greer and all these, the common sense theories, we live in an ever-expanding universe. And then there's also the realization that any God, the greatest of God, why would he want to only create one form of human life, the human being? Why not create all these other forms of life? I would become bored, and you have to think of it like a video game or in game theory. If you had the ability to create characters in a video game, you want to create a lot of them. And if you had the ability to create all these different outcomes and these different stories and these different possibilities, you would do it. These different universes, these different worlds. And this is why you buy all these different video games, so you can have all these different worlds. And so when you think of yourself, when you think of God as the player of this simulation that we're living in today, then it makes it a lot more easy to understand how, of course, God would not make humanity the only form of human life. Actually, it is even more beautiful to think about it because God would have this greater vision of life and all of these things. So that's kind of my theory on that. So now we're kind of looking at some of the other stories that are popping up in the algorithm. Trump declares the U.S. is taking historic action to deliver on his promise to turn America into the Bitcoin superpower and crypto capital of the planet.
That promise, as you know, around the table. Yesterday, I signed an executive order officially creating our strategic Bitcoin reserve, and this will be a virtual Fort Knox for digital gold to be housed within the United States Treasury. That's a big thing, Scott.
Yeah, I think that clip might be from a while ago, actually. I don't know if that's from today. Is that from today? Oh, I'm still... Well, either way, I still see a lot of big things happening with crypto. It's going to be big, 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 big. President Trump says he's considering cutting all of the trade with Spain due to them being totally uncooperative with America and NATO. 8 p.m. is not that good. Could you change it to tomorrow between 1 and 2 p.m. or, if possible, 1 and 2 a.m.? Thank you for your attention to this important matter. Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So Trump's not changing his answer.
This is at night.
So insane.
And they kept the camera on him for 45 minutes. He wasn't moving, and they said, you know, probably
He's
wrong.
talking about the
We're
troop
seeing
that
something
the
moving.
special
This is a
forces rescued.
Vast mountain. Vast. Thick. With bushes, trees. He said, we see something moving 40 miles away. It was
Crazy operation.
the head of a human being, I'm telling you. It's moving. And then all of a sudden, 45 minutes later, he moved a lot. Stood up, and they said, we have him. And that was really the beginning of something incredible.
We
had
got
an
so
idea
lucky
where he
that we
was,
were able
but
to even rescue
not
him at all, though.
specifically. That's a big mountain. So
Close call.
I want to thank the CIA, too. I don't think they get enough credit for the great
CIA.
job they've done.
Support journalism. You
CIA.
trust. Support PBS News.
How about the GIA?
Donate now, or even better.
Only few will know. Hezbollah downs Israeli aircraft near Bint Jubail. $30 million Hermes drone destroyed in seconds. I don't know. Looking pretty good for Hezbollah. They seem to be able to restockpile pretty quickly. They seem to be able to take out our aircraft rather easily. Not good. And the reason is, you have to understand that Hezbollah's fighting force is breakered off into essentially all these different freedom fighters and local fighters throughout the entire country. And that's a lot of people, 90 million people. A lot of people in Iran, a lot of crevices and mountains. And so if you look at the little villages in the country of Iran, they're like dug deep into these valleys. And so it's tough. It's tough terrain for the United States military to even fly through there. It's going to just be a hell of a war that we're not really going to be winning, in my opinion. And we need to get out of there as soon as possible, or we need to win as soon as possible and secure the Strait of Hormuz if we're really going to go that way. Brent crude oil falls, reports the U.S. and Iran are discussing a 45-day ceasefire that could potentially end the war. Yeah, well, that was 21 hours ago. That went south. Aliens are real and human contact has been made, according to Tim Burchett. Again, we just watched that video. So that's a lot of the breaking news that I'm seeing in my algorithm. We'll refresh it one more time, and then we'll probably take it down for the night. We'll be done for the night. Doesn't look like there's anything new, though. It doesn't look like there's anything too crazy going on. So what do you guys think about all of the wars happening? What do you guys think about the Iran war, all of it? I think it's pretty crazy, to say the least. I think it's pretty crazy to believe that we are here. 1 minute left until I'm finally back into my X account. That's amazing. I can finally click like on posts again. It's so great. So, what do you guys think about the entire Iran war? I guess it's a good place to end it there. What do you guys think? I think we are looking at a long war. I don't think we're going to be ending anytime soon. I think the oil prices hopefully will not do this, but I think they will probably go above $200 per barrel. And I think with crypto, we will probably see the clarity act pass because, listen, Trump wants to take Greenland. And the Trump administration wants to control Venezuela, and they also want Cuba, which is currently undergoing a regime change also at the same time. Forgot to mention that earlier. And so as Cuba and Israel and Iran and Lebanon simultaneously are undergoing all of these regime changes, we have this situation where now we are being left as Americans to decide how are we going to handle the backblow of this? You know, what happens next when a Democrat gets in office, or if they do in 2028? Well, to me, obviously, it doesn't matter. We need the truth. We need to be out of the Strait of Hormuz, where we're going to be putting our troops in danger and where we are going to just be setting Israel up to win and to become the global superpower, the Middle East superpower, the main central point of trade if all of this happens. I will say at this current point, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Looks like the current regime of Israel is collapsing, or at the very least, they're having some kind of regime change in their own country. So what do you guys think will happen to tomorrow, Tuesday, Trump's deadline? I think we will probably see a lot more strikes throughout the night. We're going to see a lot more breaking news. We'll cover it all tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ecker Geopolitics. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow.